Is contraceptive a sin in family planning and birth control? Lately I have received several questions from brethren pertained unto the best way for child birth control or family planning, and if it's sinful to apply or makes use of artificial family planning or contraceptives as a Christian. I remember the first time a beloved brother inquired this question from me. He wasn't satisfied with the answer. He was not happy because my answer to his question didn't collide with his theory. I recalled his dissatisfaction response: "Does that mean we should give birth to dozens of children without proper caring?" He was confused about the whole scenario, but I inquired from him and replied, "Is God not worthy of closing the womb of your wife instead of using contraceptive?" He replied, "What if God delay in such answers and my wife become pregnant after sexual intercourse?" I responded, "My beloved, that means you are faithless, because he that must come unto God must believe and have faith that God is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him. Hebrews 11:6 But without faith it is impossible to please him, for he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." However, this kind of issue is so controversial. That is reason I always appeal to brethren to pray over it and ask the Lord for divine guidance, because the Lord's ways are past finding. Nevertheless, I have devotedly makes scriptural research and comes out with scriptures proofs which annulled the use of contraceptive or artificial family planning in child birth control. What is contraception? This is a means of prevention of conception or the use of artificial means to control a child birth. A contraceptive deals with devices or method used in controlling pregnancy or childbirth. And I believe this edifying updates will help to decipher if truly it is sinful to apply artificial family planning or makes use of contraceptive means of controlling childbirth in Christian homes. Divine revelation about devilish plan against Christians. About a year ago I was invited for a youth conference program in the church, where I heard a heart-pricking confession of a young boy of 17 years. He is 150 years in spiritual realm, working in kingdom of darkness. He narrated his satanic ordeals on how condoms are been produced in demonic kingdoms and shipped into physically world to initiate and caged humanity into bondage. He said, and I quote, "Any woman that uses such products shall never give birth, because her womb will be demonized. She will be afflicted with various kinds of demonic sickness and afflictions. The sperm of the man shall impotently demonize and afflicted seriously. Whosoever uses such condoms has ignorantly say no to Christ and yes to Satan, because he/she will be automatically initiated into the kingdom of darkness, unlike before, when you ought to be taken to the river to undergo series of sacrificial rites before initiation. But in this perilous time, Satan has widened his demonic enterprises because of the fulfillment of the scriptures. While many of you Christian are careless and adamant while listening to the confession of this lad, I immediately recall reason why evangelist Fun Mileo Adabia, a sister who spent 990 years in the kingdom of darkness, lamented and said, "I don't believe that people can still make heaven because we have defiled and polluted everything in this world." God's viewpoint on family planning. Be fruitful and multiply. In the account of creation, God commanded man to be fruitful and multiply. The scripture says, God created man in his own image, in the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. God blessed them, and God said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth, and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea and over the birds of the sky and over every living thing that moves on the earth." Genesis 1:27-28. A pregnant woman. That commandment has never been revoked by God and is still in force today, and it applies to more than just reproduction of babies. It also applies to making disciples. You can be sure of this: the devil worries when he sees the disciples of Christ multiplying. The great wickedness of Onan. This is the account of Onan in Genesis 38. I realize there are many views in the sinful account of Onan, who refused to fulfill his God-given duty to provide offspring for his brother. At that time, they did not yet have the law of Moses to teach them this commandment, yet Judah the patriarch knew this was one of the commandments of God since the creation, and he commanded his son Onan to enable his brother's widow to multiply. I have always felt that this refusal to procreate for his deceased brother was the great wickedness for which God put him to death, rather than that he simply used a primitive form of contraception. Tamar had no children at all, and he refused to give her any. To me that seemed to be different from the broader issue of using a method of controlling childbirth with one's wife, if other children had been born already or were planned in the future. This scripture prohibited all forms of artificial birth control under any circumstance. It is a clear case of man refusing to obey God's command to be fruitful and multiply, which would have been handed down to Judah from Adam with respect to God's original command to be fruitful and multiply. But rather, he apparently engaged in sex for purely selfish reasons to satisfy his own physical desire for pleasure. Children are gift from God. In Psalm 127, it says that children are a gift of the Lord given as a reward to parents. They are a blessing from the Lord, like arrows in a man's quiver. Unless the Lord builds the house, they labor in vain who build it. Unless the Lord guards the city, the watchman keeps awake in vain. It is vain for you to rise up early, to retire late, to eat the bread of painful labors, for he gives to his beloved even in his sleep. Behold, children are a gift of the Lord, the fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. How blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them, they will not be ashamed when they speak with their enemies in the gate. So children are a gift from God, and it is well known that in any culture it is usually considered rude to refuse a gift from someone. So it seems the same would apply to refusing a gift from God. It presents another angle from which to see this from God's viewpoint. It is not just disobedience to his command, Genesis 1:28, but refusal to receive his gifts, precious human beings, which are made in his own image. God knows, calls, and appoints preborn children. Before I formed you in the womb I knew you, before you were born I set you apart, I appointed you as a prophet to the nations. Jeremiah 1:5. God told Jeremiah that he knew him before he formed him in the womb. This means that God knows us and calls us to his service before we are even born. He has had a plan and a purpose for each of our lives from before the foundation of the world, which has the potential to change nations. Pregnant woman with baby. People are foreordained just as Jeremiah was. God has included you in his great unfolding plan, but he will not violate your will. You can choose to experience the joy and excitement of being in partnership with him. Therefore, if you abort a fetus, you terminate a human life that God knows and has plans for, and if you prevent the conception of that human being, then you have changed God's perfect plan. Is it a sin to use contraceptive for birth controls? From above godly viewpoint on contraceptive in control of childbirth on family planning, you can infer the negative viewpoint of the Lord and reason why you need to desist from artificial means of controlling of childbirth such as condom, female condom, pills, hormonal ring, UID, injections etc., and rather adhere naturally while controlling childbirth or while discussing about family planning, because the blessing of God maketh riches and added no sorrow. Child is God blessing. That baby you and your wife has planned and concluded to abort might be an element that will wipe away your tears in the future. Those blessed children you often reject while bulletproofing yourself with condoms and other contraceptives devices might be the shadow that will brings everlasting happiness to your generation. However, I believe below pathetic true life story of a sister who kicked the bucket due to ignorant while trying to manipulate God's natural ways and programs concerning human nature will enlighten you on the danger of use of contraceptive in birth control. The danger of use of contraceptive in family planning. The sister in the picture died few months ago. She leaves behind a husband, a 2-year-old Brandon and a 4-year-old Justin. The cause of her death was discovered when the doctors found a birth control pill in her bloodstreams which she was been taking. It makes her to only have her menstrual period 3 times a year. Danger of contraceptive pill. The doctors said it interrupts her life's menstrual cycle, and although it is FDA approved shouldn't be. Hence I plead you to boycott this artificial product of birth controls and deal with your period once a month, so you can live the rest of the months that your life has in store for you. Remember, you have a menstrual cycle for a reason. The natural family planning. Natural family planning, NFP, involves a woman daily tracking on a chart throughout each month her signs and symptoms, such as basal body temperature, mucus secretions, and number of days since her last menstruation, in order to determine when she is fertile. There is a rhythm of sterility and fertility, and women only ovulate once per menstrual cycle. So the couple can determine to either avoid sexual relations when she is fertile, or else target those fertile days, if they are trying to get pregnant. This method is based on abstinence and self-control, against which there is no law. Even the Apostle Paul said that there are times where a married couple may agree to abstain from sexual relations for a period of time for the purpose of devotion to prayer. 1 Corinthians 7:5 Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer, and come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency. It's natural and safe but need a lot of extra care on monitoring physiological changes in the body because every woman is different in her circle and those changes are not constant and can be altered due to hormonal changes, stress, and diseases because without keenly monitoring such woman is likely to get pregnant without expectancy. However, immediately after her periods her labia, lips of the vagina, inner and outer will be completely dry indicating such woman can't facilitate sperm movement. Normally it is very short from 1 day to 3 days depending on the woman because very woman is different. It's called safe short day, however as a woman if you begins to notice some thick mucus on your lips, vagina, and rise in your body temperature, at this point you need to desist from sex and after it stop you can resume until the next period because without taking cares in monitoring changes of your body you might still get pregnant. Every woman has to make her own calendar and mark it depending on changes she is noticing in her body. Natural family planning on baby sex determination. The sex chromosome that produces a female is XX chromosome while XY chromosome produces a male child. The egg cell of a woman carries X chromosome, while the spermatozoon of the man carries X and Y chromosomes. If the X chromosome from the man fuses with woman's egg, then the zygote will be X chromosome which is baby girl. If on the other hand the Y chromosome fertilizes the woman's egg, the zygote will be XY chromosome, which is baby boy. This is how God established it and one may ask, how can one make the Y chromosome fuse with the egg of one's chromosome? This question is followed by another question: when does fertilization of a woman's egg happen? A woman has only 3 days every month when she can conceive. It is called ovulation days. The ovulation days begin on the 15th day from the first day of the menstruation and ends on the 17th day for most women. The X chromosome lives for about 48 hours while the Y chromosome's lifespan is about 12 hours. Natural family planning on baby sex determination. The Y chromosome runs faster than the X chromosome. If the Y chromosome reaches at the fallopian tube where the egg is fertilized and the egg has not arrived, it stays for about 12 hours and dies, while the X chromosome arrives late and lives for about 48 hours before it dies. Since ovulation days are 15th, 16th, and 17th from the first day of the menstruation for most women, couples wishing to have baby boys should have sex on the 3rd day of the ovulation or the 17th day from the day that menstruation began. Those couples who want baby girls should have sexual relationship on the 14th, 15th days from the first day of the menstruation or the 1st and 2nd days of the ovulation. And I hope this editing updates has been a blessing to you.